The city did not slow down for anyone. Cars pushed through yellow lights. People stared at phones. The morning air smelled like exhaust and burnt coffee. Julian Reed stood at the edge of the crosswalk, hands in his coat pockets, waiting for the light to change. At 48, Julian Reed owned more than most people could imagine. Tech companies, real estate, private schools. His name appeared on donation lists and charity walls, always engraved in clean metal letters. Billionaire philanthropist, visionary investor. Cold, that last word was never written, but everyone felt it. Julian crossed the street and stopped short. A child sat on the sidewalk near the subway entrance. A boy, small, thin, maybe 8 years old. He was not asking for money. He was not crying. He was fixing a broken zipper on a backpack that had been repaired too many times already. Julian watched him for a moment longer than he meant to. The boy looked up. Their eyes met. The boy stood quickly, like he was afraid of being yelled at. "Sorry, sir," he said. "I'm not blocking anyone." Julian shook his head. "You're fine." The boy relaxed just a little. "What's your name?" Julian asked. "Milo." "How old are you, Milo?" 8. Almost 9. Julian nodded. "Why aren't you in school?" Milo looked down at his shoes. One lace was missing. "They said I can't come back until my lunch balance is paid." Julian felt something tight in his chest. "How much?" Milo shrugged. "I don't know. They just sent me home." "Where's your family?" "My mom's at work. She cleans offices. She said to wait here because she can't lose a job." Julian glanced at the subway entrance. People rushing past a child who clearly did not belong on the street alone. "Which school?" Julian asked. Milo told him. Julian knew the name immediately. One of the schools his foundation helped fund. "You hungry?" Julian asked. Milo hesitated, then nodded. Julian turned toward a cafe on the corner. "Come on." Milo didn't move. "I don't have money," he said. Julian looked down at him. "Neither do you need it right now." After a long second, Milo followed. Inside the cafe, Milo stared at the menu like it was something unreal. "Get whatever you want," Julian said. Milo chose slowly. "Just a sandwich. No drink." Julian ordered 2 meals. They sat at a small table by the window. Milo ate carefully, like he was afraid it might disappear. Julian watched him in silence. This was not charity. This was a system failure, sitting right across from him. When Milo finished, Julian asked quietly, "Who told you to leave school?" "The office lady." "Did she explain why?" Milo shook his head. "She said rules are rules." Julian leaned back in his chair. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, a billionaire realized he had been funding something broken, and a child waited, unaware that his life was about to change. Julian walked Milo back toward the subway entrance. The boy stopped near the same spot where he had been sitting earlier, like he expected to be left there again. "Thank you for the food, sir," Milo said. "I can wait here now." Julian didn't move. "How long have you been waiting here?" he asked. "Since morning." "What time is it now?" Milo squinted at the sky. "I don't know." Julian checked his watch. "Almost noon." Milo nodded like that made sense. "My mom finishes at 4. Julian exhaled slowly. "You can't stay here alone that long." Milo's shoulders tightened. "I'm okay. I know which adults not to talk to." The words hit harder than Julian expected. "Who taught you that?" Milo shrugged. "You learn." Julian looked around again. The security guards. The police car across the street. All the systems designed to protect people. None of them were protecting this child. "Come with me," Julian said. Milo froze. "Where?" "To your school." Milo's eyes widened. "They won't let me in." "We'll see." They took a taxi. Milo sat stiffly, hands folded in his lap. Julian watched him in the mirror. "Do you like school?" Julian asked. Milo hesitated. "I like the library." "And art day. Do you like learning?" Milo thought about it. "I like when teachers explain things slow." Julian nodded. They arrived 10 minutes later. The school building was clean. Bright banners. Smiling posters about opportunity and fairness. Julian paid the driver and stepped out. Milo stayed close to the side. Inside, The office smelled like disinfectant and paper. The woman behind the desk looked up. Yes, this student was sent home today, Julian said calmly. The woman glanced at Milo, then at her screen. Lunch balance issue. Why was he removed from class? Julian asked. Policy, she replied. Julian leaned slightly forward. Who approved that policy? The woman frowned. Sir, I don't make the rules. I know, Julian said. Who does? The principal's office door opened. A man stepped out, smile already in place. Mr. Reed. What a surprise. Julian did not return the smile. This child was sent out of class because he owes lunch money, Julian said. The principal cleared his throat. We follow district guidelines. Julian gestured to Milo. He's 8. The principal lowered his voice. It's not personal. Julian's voice stayed flat. It never is. Milo stared at the floor. Julian turned to him. Do you want to go back to class? Milo nodded quickly. Yes. Julian looked back at the principal. He's going back. Today. The principal hesitated. The balance. Julian interrupted. I'll cover it, and we'll talk later about the policy. The principal forced a smile. Of course. Milo was handed a hall pass. As a teacher walked him away, Milo looked back. Thank you, he whispered. Julian stood there after the boy disappeared down the hallway. The principal shifted nervously. Julian's eyes hardened. This school was only the beginning. Julian did not leave the building. He stood in the hallway, watching children move between classrooms, backpacks bouncing, voices loud and careless. Milo's voice was gone now, absorbed into the noise. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Julian turned back toward the office. I want to see the lunch records, he said. The principal blinked. I'm not sure that's appropriate. Julian met his eyes. It is as if my foundation is funding this place. The principal hesitated, then nodded. Minutes later, Julian sat in a small conference room with a tablet in front of him. Names, balances, notes. Dozens of students flagged. Late payments, repeated removals, disciplinary marks tied to food. Julian's jaw tightened. These weren't bad kids. These were hungry kids. How many have been sent home this month? Julian asked. The principal shifted in his chair. We don't track it that way. Track it now. A quiet pause. 17, the principal said. Julian leaned back. 17 families who probably already felt like they were failing. 17 children taught that hunger was a punishable offense. Who designed the system? Julian asked. District board. The policy discourages dependency. Julian almost laughed. Dependency. He stood. Effective immediately. No child in the school is removed from class over food, he said. Sir, we can't just... Julian cut him off. You can, or my funding stops today, and this becomes public tomorrow. Silence filled the room. The principal nodded. Understood. Julian walked out. In the hallway, he stopped near a classroom door. Through the glass, he saw Milo, sitting straight, pencil in hand, listening closely, trying. Julian stayed there longer than necessary. For years, he had signed checks and trusted reports. He had believed the system worked because it looked clean on paper. Now he saw the cracks. His phone vibrated. Board meeting in 20 minutes. His assistant texted. Julian typed back. Cancel it. He walked out of school into the cold air. Across the street, a woman stood near the fence. She looked exhausted, uniform wrinkled, eyes searching. She spotted Julian and rushed over. Are you the man who took my son? She asked, fear in her voice. Julian froze. Yes, he said carefully. I brought him back to school. Tears filled her eyes. I thought something happened. I left work early. I was so scared. Her hands shook. I'm sorry, Julian said. She nodded, struggling to breathe. Thank you for helping him. What's your name? Julian asked. Rosa. Julian looked back at the school, then at her. This wasn't just Milo's story. It was hers too, and it was far from over. Julian walked Rosa to a bench near the school gate. She sat down slowly, like her legs were no longer listening to her. I'm sorry, she said again. I didn't know what else to do. If I miss work, we don't eat. Julian nodded. How long has this been happening? Rosa stared at the ground. Since winter. First it was notes, then phone calls. Then they sent him out of class. Did they ever call you directly? Only once. They said if I couldn't keep up, maybe public school wasn't right for us. Julian's jaw tightened. This school advertises opportunity, he said quietly. Rosa gave a tired smile. Opportunity costs money. Julian looked at the building again. Bright walls. Happy slogans. Inside, children were learning who mattered and who didn't. What is Milo like? Julian asked. Rosa looked surprised. Art. Drawing cities. He says buildings feel safe because they don't leave. Julian felt the words settle heavy in his chest. He pulled out his phone. I'm not here to take your child, he said. I want to fix what shouldn't be broken. Rosa looked at him carefully. People say that a lot. Julian nodded. I know. He made a call. I want a full audit, he said into the phone. Lunch programs. Discipline records. Every school we fund. Today. He ended the call and looked at Rosa. Your son is not the problem, he said. And neither are you. Rosa's eyes filled. Then why does it feel like we're always the ones paying? Julian had no answer. The school bell rang. Children poured out. Milo spotted them immediately and ran over. Mom. Rosa hugged him tight. Julian watched them, something unfamiliar stirring inside him. Milo pulled back and looked up at Julian. Am I in trouble? He asked. Julian shook his head. No, you did nothing wrong. Milo frowned. The office lady said rules are rules. Julian knelt in front of him. Some rules are wrong, he said, and grown-ups are supposed to fix them. Milo thought about that. Okay, he said. As they walked away, Julian stayed behind. His phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't his assistant. It was the district board chair. We need to talk. The message read. Now, Julian looked back at the street where Milo had been waiting that morning. He understood something then. Fixing this would not be simple, and it would not be quiet. Julian did not go home. He went to the district office. The building was older than the schools it controlled. Thick walls, narrow windows, a place designed to keep decisions far from the people they affected. The board chair was already waiting. You embarrassed us today, she said without greeting. Julian removed his coat and placed it over a chair. A child was removed from class for being hungry, he said. That's the embarrassment. We have policies, she replied. Without structure, programs collapse. Julian leaned forward. Structure that punishes children is not structure. It's control. The board members shifted in their seats. One of them spoke. If we remove consequences, families will rely on the system. Julian's voice stayed calm. Families already rely on it. You just pretend they don't. Silence. Julian slid a folder across the table. These are the records from one school. 17 children flagged for lunch debt in 1 month. One member flipped through the pages. Frowned. Julian continued. My foundation will no longer fund any school that removes a child from class over food. Effective immediately. The chair stiffened. You can't dictate policy. Julian met her eyes. I can decide where my money goes. Another board member spoke carefully. This would affect hundreds of schools. Good, Julian said. It should. They looked at him like he was a problem. Julian stood. This conversation isn't a negotiation, he said. It's a warning. He turned and walked out. Outside, the sky had darkened. His phone rang as he stepped into his car. A number he didn't recognize. Hello? Mr. Reed, a man's voice said. This is Child Services. We received a report about a boy left unattended near your building this morning. Julian's grip tightened on the phone. Yes, he said. His name is Milo. His mother was at work. There was a pause. We'll need to follow up. Julian stared at the traffic ahead. Follow up on the system that forced an 8-year-old onto the street, he said. Another pause. We'll be in touch, the voice said. The call ended. Julian sat in the car, engine off. He had stepped into something much larger than a school policy, and now the system was pushing back. Julian arrived at Rosa's apartment just after sunset. The building was old, paint peeling, stairwell lights flickering like they might give up at any moment. He carried 2 grocery bags, heavy with things that lasted longer than a day. Rosa opened the door slowly, surprise flashing across her face. "Mr. Reed?" Julian held up the bags. "I didn't want to show up empty-handed." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was small, but clean. A couch, a folding table, Milo's drawings taped to the wall. Cities, tall buildings, windows glowing. Milo looked up from the floor. His face lit up. "You came back." Julian nodded. "I said I would." They sat at the table. Milo talked while eating, words spilling out like he'd been holding them in all day. He told Julian about art class, about a picture he was proud of, about how the teacher smiled at him for the first time in weeks. Rosa watched quietly. When Milo went to his room, she spoke. "Child services called me," she said. "They think I put him in danger." Julian's chest tightened. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "I'm tired of being scared all the time." Julian nodded. "So am I." He stood and walked toward the wall, studying Milo's drawings. "He builds cities where everyone fits," Rosa said softly. Julian looked at one drawing longer than the rest. A school. Big windows. A table full of food. No one left outside. Julian turned back to her. "I can't fix everything," he said, "but I can stand between you and a system that's already failing you." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "Why?" she asked. "Why us?" Julian thought of the empty penthouse, the silent mornings, the child on the sidewalk. "Because someone should have done it for me once," he said. There was a knock at the door. Both of them froze. Rosa whispered, "I didn't invite anyone." Julian moved first. He opened the door. A woman stood there with a clipboard. "Child services," she said. Julian stepped aside. And for the first time in his life, he was not walking away from a fight. He was walking into one.